CNN is losing their minds because Donald Trump's not going to get in trouble. He's a convicted felon. He's a convicted felon. We all know it was a witch hunt. We all know they were trying to just stop him, trying to make him be a convicted felon so that could be their biggest talking point throughout the whole election cycle. We all know it wasn't legitimate. They made all these misdemeanor charges, felonies, things that she shouldn't have gotten charged to begin with over. And now they're crying their tears because he's not going to be, there's not going to be fined. He's not going to do any jail time. This man is supposed to be president. And y'all thought that was going to happen. You really thought it was your last ditch effort, that you thought maybe we'll get him. No. He'll be the president, and he's going to be a great president. But before we get into this video, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to Resist the Mainstream to ensure to YouTube that you're enjoying these videos, and that way they'll continually show up in your feed, and then we'll push it out to more people. I'm Titus. Let's get into this video.
No actual punishment for it. So should Trump do anything about it?
Well, I mean, I guess he could show up and continue to show what this case was all about in the first place, and that is it was for a political talking point. This case should have never been brought. It was brought by a partisan prosecutor. If Donald Trump weren't Donald Trump and he weren't running for president, this case would never have been charged with felonies this way. It's complete and total sham. It's a kangaroo court. Of course he's not going to be punished for it, because the only reason they ever did it was so they could try to call him a convicted felon during the election, which they, of course, did. And then the American people soundly rejected this naked partisan politics. If you're watching New York City news right now, you got people being burned on the subway, folks running around with all kinds of violence in their past and not in jail, and the criminal justice system is being used on Donald Trump. Take a hard look at who you're electing. It's Alvin Bragg and this judge.
Where's the lie? Where is the lie? And that's 100% true. This is a witch hunt. And they're upset they're not getting the results that they wanted. They thought they just wanted to flail the convicted felon title over him throughout the whole election cycle, and it didn't work. It didn't work. America, actually, it helped him. You made his approval rating go up. There was a point in time where DeSantis and him were kind of neck and neck, and then I think DeSantis was in the head in the polls at some point because people thought, oh, he would be as divisive. Oh, Trump, maybe we need to move on to the next thing. And then you guys kept coming after him over and over and over again to where the American people were like, actually, this is a little too much. I didn't even like Trump, but like, why are they coming at him this hard? Is he actually right? Is that why they can't handle this? Because was he right all along? The conservatives, right? Let's look into this a little more. We expose their tactics, their fear mongering. Trump actually wasn't that bad. He didn't actually do anything crazy in his administration. Maybe actually, as a matter of fact, life was a lot easier under the administration. I felt more safe. I had more money in my pocket. And then the continual political character assassination they were trying to do on him just made people like him more, and he was seen as like a martyr. It's hilarious. But we have another video with CNN, the panel with Abby Phillips, our favorite CNN anchor, just all of them losing their mind because they can't believe that he's not going to have any consequences to his evil actions. So let's check this out.
Tay, is this a kind of Goldilocks decision by the judge here to give people who want Trump to have consequences a conviction that is upheld, but not have to deal with, a sentence which, frankly, was unlikely to actually happen given that he's about to be the president of the United States?
No, and I don't want to sugarcoat it. I think this is a slap in the face to the judicial system. We tell the jurors when they come into that room that your job is very important. This is very serious. We expect them to pour through the information, which they did. They came back with a decision, and now the judge is saying, essentially, it doesn't matter. You found him guilty, but I'm not going to assess any penalty at all. I'm not saying you had to put Trump in jail. That's not likely or reasonable. But there are fines that could have happened, up to $170,000 in fines. Why not assess that and say you were found guilty? Here's a consequence so America can know that if you do something wrong, there will be a penalty to pay.
Brian?
Listen, I think what we're going to learn through this case more than anything else is the most helpful to President Trump's election. Because when you saw the indictment take place, you saw a lot of money come in. You saw the party consolidate against around President Trump, and that was a good thing. And remember, the original purpose of what at least Trump world felt that this was happening was to try to damage President Trump in his presidential run. Hopefully, this will take him off the sideline. Democrats were all over the country saying, if you look at the polls, he's going to lose this much Republican support if we can just get this conviction. And it backfired on him. So I'm not surprised when we get to the very end that it just turned out to be a farce it's a farce at the end, just like it was a farce from the very beginning.
It was a witch. It was a witch hunt from the very beginning. To Dante's point, there was a jury trial. And he was convicted.
But he was convicted in what really was a witch trial. I mean, the whole thing from the very beginning was politically motivated. And like you said, I mean, during the election, we saw how the American public felt about it. They felt that it didn't matter. And my question is, why even have him appear if the judge has already made a decision that there isn't going to be any kind of fine, there's not going to be a probation, there's not going to be any jail time? What's the point?
He said he can appear virtually,
Right,
which again,
right.
you're giving that concession. I understand it's the incoming president of the United States, but I don't want the point to be lost that there was a jury trial where that jury sit through and heard evidence, and whether or not Trump should have been charged, that's not what we're talking about. He was, and he was found guilty based on the evidence. So you can't ignore that and say it was a political witch hunt because a jury said he did something wrong, but now the judge is saying he won't be punished.
The judge, I mean, he is not saying that the jury's verdict is invalid. He's just saying, of the options I have available to me, I'm going to choose the one that has basically no penalty. Isn't that an option that would have been available to him anyway?
No. I mean, I don't know of an option where someone is convicted of 34 felonies and at the end of it you say, okay, all right, we got you, but there's nothing that's going to happen to you as a result. That's just not how our legal system works, and we don't want people to think it works that way.
First-time offender, no priors?
For all of the talk of Donald Trump being the victim of the weaponization of our criminal legal system, he has consistently been treated more generously than the average American would. To the point just made, who do you know who's been convicted on 34 felony counts, doesn't even have to pay a fine, to say nothing of some prison time?
Well, who else would have ever been charged in the circumstances?
This is literally what they were talking. He's not getting generous treatment. It was a witch hunt. What they did was wrong. He shouldn't have ever been in this position to begin with. He even stated, the guy even said, we're not even talking about whether or not he should have been charged, as if it was wrong for them to charge, and then goes, but he was. And since a jury of peers in a county or in an area in which they all voted for Biden, like 90-something%, yeah, shocker that they said he was guilty. Like, oh my gosh. Insanity.
But this is how we treat white-collar criminals in our country. They walk away scot-free. This has been traditional. This isn't any surprise to us.
Well, they don't. After they've been convicted, they don't walk away scot-free. They have to have some. There has to be some consequence, whether it is a financial or some combination of.
But it's consistently
financial
smaller than any other type of criminal.
Or some prison time. And so here's a classic example. And by the way, this has been appealed on at least one occasion. I mean, he was convicted of things that a court has found beyond this trial court to be a perfectly valid thing to be convicted of in the state of New York. And so for all this talk about a witch hunt, weaponization, no one can plausibly dispute that he committed the crimes that he was convicted of. They may not like that he was prosecuted, but the fact is, he did the things that he was convicted of.
Steve Chung is saying...
in the Democratic, he wouldn't have got convicted in any other city that is a Republican city or even slightly leading moderate city. It's a jury of Democrats.
But Brian, doesn't that undermine your very point? If you're suggesting that Republicans would have let him off, isn't that in itself political?
Defense counsel.
It's very, very political. But that's my point is Trump has broken all these barriers and he continues to do it. But now the Democrats try to do it with the weaponization of our judicial system, and it just backfired.
My question is, why not just take the win? There's no consequences to this. Just take the win and move on. Trump's team is saying there should be no sentencing. President Trump will continue to fight against these hoaxes until they're all dead. But at the end of the day, to Mondare's point, Trump is coming out on the upside of this in the sense that there are no consequences here.
That's not a win. If you didn't do anything wrong, if you think you've been wrongfully accused of something, it doesn't matter if, I don't have jail time. I don't want to pay any fines. I didn't do what you're saying I did. I'm not guilty of anything. Like, sometimes justice is more important than getting off scot-free because of whatever reason this judge wants to be nice. No, he's still convicting him of crimes. I didn't do crimes, is what he's. I did not do the crime, so I don't want to, even though I'm not doing the time, I don't want to be convicted of that. I don't want to be that on my record. I didn't do anything. So, what do we mean take the win? That's not how this works.
So why not just let it go?
Because he wants to erase the criminal from his record.
What about the other 3 jurisdictions in which he was indicted, right? The dozens of other felony counts for withholding, refusing to produce classified documents that he stole from the Oval Office.
Right, but they dropped those. Those were
January
dismissed.
6th, those were voluntarily dismissed
right
after he won the election, and it became clear that pursuant to a DOJ memorandum, which has never really been tested in the court of law, that he wouldn't be able to be prosecuted anyway because he was about to return to the White House. That is not to say that those felony indictments were somehow without a basis. And throughout all of these prosecutions, no one has plausibly refuted the fact that he didn't commit the crimes that he has been indicted for.
But I think it's
these are Republican talking points.
That those cases, we don't know if he committed those crimes or not because they're not going to trial.
And
Actually, in this case, we know he committed the crime.
To be clear, we actually do know he did the thing on January 6th. Like, I lived through that. We all saw that play out.
Until he's found guilty, we can't say that. But here, he was found guilty.
We saw him refuse to produce classified documents that he took from the Oval Office. I'm just saying, some of this stuff has been in plain sight.
A jury found him guilty on this case, and there will be no penalty. I think that that's a slap in the face of the justice system. And you did make a point. This was talked about all day, even on this network where they say giving him a fine wouldn't have made a difference because he has so much money. That's a ridiculous argument, right? If you get a speeding ticket and I walk in with thousands of dollars and say, how dare you fine me $200? I have so much money. That won't matter to me. They're going to suspend my license if I don't pay that ticket. You have to have a consequence. So there's no reason why a judge couldn't have said, all right, I know I can't put you in jail. I can't put you on house arrest. You have 34 felonies, but here, even $1 fine. So it can be clear that you are being penalized and there's a consequence for your actions, and it would have been done.
But the martyrdom that would come out of him being penalized and having to pay any sort of fine, in my opinion, is worth him just walking away and us never having to hear about this again and focusing on the issues that American voters care about.
So speaking of that, I mean, we were just talking about whether he would, he doesn't have to come to New York for the sentencing, but do you think he might consider it?
Yeah, it's a spectacle. Absolutely. You're going to have every camera in the country, probably nearly every camera in the world, focus on the American president going before the court.
10 days before the inauguration.
And he knows he's going to walk out unscathed.
But exactly.
Yeah.
He's going to walk out with his team. Absolutely.
It's a victory for him.
Yeah. All right.
How very Roman-esque.
Imagine a victory walk after being convicted of 34 felonies.
Man, to be, I mean, I feel like these people hate their lives. Like, they have to hate their lives. They're out here on these panels every single day, just spouting ridiculousness. And it's really unfortunate as a black man, seeing all these black people be like this. I'm like, oh man, you just like had to fall for the lie. Fall for the, I mean, honestly, you're propagating the lie. You're part of the problem. This is literally why Trump won. Nobody believes your nonsense. No one believes your rhetoric. And that's why the judge doesn't do anything about it either. I guess he's still being convicted, but he's not going to give him any penalties because he didn't do anything. Nobody can ever say what he actually did. He keeps saying, it's proof, it's facts. All this evidence, jury. No, nobody actually knows. No one knows. Ridiculous. And the fact that you said if this was in a Republican county that he would not have been convicted of that speaks to the division in our country. Because how can you have this evidence presented as a jury in a Democrat area and then the same evidence presented in a Republican area and to get two different verdicts? Like, that's insane. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, comment down your thoughts below. I want to know what you're thinking. This was absolutely crazy. CNN is the worst as usual, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.